So imagine a drawing on a piece of blank paper, right?
Yeah, like a sketch.
Yeah, exactly. Just a sketch. It has no pulse, no lungs. I mean, it literally possesses no consciousness whatsoever.
Right. It's just geometric lines and ink.
Exactly. Ink and maybe a splash of color. But for an entire generation of kids, this simple 2D sketch of a square-jawed scientist smoking a pipe, well, it became the most reliable, comforting father figure.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredibly powerful when you frame it like that.
Right. And so today, we're not just, looking at the surface-level world of animation. We're really going into this deep dive to explore the invisible acoustic alchemy that takes cold ink and paint and turns it into, like, a literal psychological safety net for you as a viewer.
I love that phrase, Gal. It's exactly what it is.
Right. So to do this, we're unpacking a transcript from a YouTube video by the channel Veil. And this video, it chronicles the passing of legendary voice actor Tom Kane.
Which is such a massive loss for the...
It really is. But the real heartbeat of this source material, the thing we're really focusing on today, is a deeply personal eulogy written by the animation creator Craig McCracken.
Yeah, and I have to say, that specific eulogy makes this a profoundly rare artifact for us to analyze.
Oh, absolutely. How so, though? Like, what makes it stand out to you?
Well, usually when we discuss the entertainment industry, the discourse revolves entirely around the visible elements.
Right, the stuff you can see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The special effects budgets, the A-list faces walking the red carpet, the meticulous visual design of whatever cinematic universe is popular that week.
Yeah, the glitz and glamour.
Right. And voice acting, it's frequently relegated to an afterthought. Like it's treated as this mechanical process where someone just, stands in a padded booth and reads words off a page.
Just clocking in and clocking out.
Exactly. But McCracken's tribute, especially as it's filtered through this video essay, it completely shatters that illusion.
It really does. It's so raw.
It is. It offers us this microscopic look at the symbiosis between a creator attempting to birth a whole universe and the actor who actually has to provide the oxygen.
Okay, let's unpack this because I want to set the stakes for you right out. Our mission for this deep dive is to figure out how a human soul literally bleeds through a microphone.
I mean, that's the big question, right?
Exactly, because if we just wanted to rattle off a list of Tom Kane's credits, well, you could open a wiki page and be done in 30 seconds.
Yeah, that wouldn't be much of a deep dive.
Right. But the source text forces us to look way deeper. We're talking about creating a legacy that, according to the narrator of the Veil Skibum video, literally saves children from their own worst tendencies.
That's such an intense claim.
It really is. The narrator basically says this voice acting shaped their entire developmental...
It's a heavy claim, for sure, but the text totally backs it up.
Yeah.
So the tone we need to navigate today is, I'd call it forensic appreciation.
Ooh, forensic...
Right, because we are dissecting how lived human experience, like an actor's actual, messy, beautiful reality, translates into a frequency that comforts a child on the other side of a television screen.
Which is just wild to think about.
It is. It's a highly vulnerable look at the human reality that's propping up an animated fantasy.
Okay, so let's start by looking at the sheer, overwhelming architectural weight of Tom Kane's career.
Oh, it's massive.
Right, because the text immediately establishes him as an undisputed titan in this incredibly niche industry. We're talking about a resume that cements him as one of the absolute greats.
No question about it.
The video specifically calls out his work as Yoda in the Clone Wars, the incredibly rigid Mr. Harriman in Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, and perhaps most famously, Professor Utonium in the Powerpuff Girls.
Such iconic roles.
And that's alongside what the narrator casually describes as and this is a quote, a ton of side characters.
Yeah, which just speaks to his work ethic.
Yeah.
But what stands out to me isn't just the list of recognizable intellectual properties.
Okay, what is it?
It's the specific visceral reaction the narrator has to hearing those voices. The Veil Skibum video makes a very evocative claim.
Oh, the nostalgia part.
Yes, exactly. They say that these performances ooze with nostalgia.
Ooze with nostalgia. That's such a great...
It is, right.
Yeah.
Now, nostalgia is a common buzzword, obviously.
Sure, people throw it around all the time.
Right. But the narrator pushes it much further, like into the realm of active behavioral modification.
Wait, behavioral modification? How do you mean?
Well, they explicitly state that in their youth, they were a, quote, terrible brat who had no interest in education, let alone science.
Oh, wow. Yeah, they really put themselves on blast there.
They did. Yet their life was entirely turned around, and they actually used the word saved by these characters, specifically the dynamic of the Powerpuff Girls and Professor Utonium.
That's incredible. I mean, it makes me think a childhood voice actor is essentially like the foundation of a house.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, like you don't always look at the foundation, right? You don't actively realize it's there holding everything up.
But you implicitly trust it.
Exactly. You trust it to hold you up, to keep you safe. You don't think about the concrete. But years later, when you step back into that house, or in this case, hear that warm baritone of Professor Utonium, your brain just instantly bypasses all its adult defense.
You just revert back to that kid.
Exactly. You revert to a state of absolute, uncritical... But I really want to dig into the mechanics of that.
Okay, let's do it.
Because why does a disembodied voice from, an era of early Cartoon Network hold such a vice-like psychological grip on us even decades later?
Well, what's fascinating here is that we have to look at how the brain processes auditory information versus visual information.
So, yeah, especially in
kids. The narrator specifically frames this feeling around their classic childhood days, relaxing with the early era of cartoon.
Right, sitting on the rug with a bowl of cereal.
Exact. And when a child is relaxed in front of a screen they are in a highly receptive, almost hypnotic state.
That makes total sense. They're just absorbing everything.
Right. The visual stimuli, the bright colors, the kinetic movement of the 2D animation that captures their attention.
Sure, it hooks them.
But here's the thing. A drawing cannot project empathy.
Oh, wow. That's a great point.
Right. A drawing cannot modulate its tone to convey reassurance.
It's just static.
Exact. But the text notes that Tom Kane constantly gave it his all, breathing fresh life into these faces and making them feel real.
Making them feel real.
That fresh life is the acoustic delivery of human emotion.
Wait, so you're saying the sound itself carries the physical emotion?
Yeah. The vocal cords are controlled by the autonomic nervous, which means genuine warmth, subtle humor, micro expressions of kindness. Those are actually embedded in the sound waves themselves.
Okay, so it's not just pleasant sounding.
No, not at all.
You're saying it's an actual biological transfer of emotion from the actor in the booth to the viewer on the couch.
Precisely.
So the kid's brain doesn't just register a cartoon character, it registers a real, empathetic human presence.
Exactly. It projects an illusion of consistency and safety. A child viewer instantly bonds with that vocal warmth because, purely from an evolutionary standpoint, human beings are wired to seek out comforting, authoritative vocal tones.
Oh, that's fascinating. We literally evolved to find comfort in that kind of voice.
We did. It feels incredibly real and emotionally present, even if visually the child obviously knows they are looking at pain.
That makes the narrator's confession so much more profound if you think about it.
How so?
Well, think about the developmental pivot here. Because of this disembodied voice, this kid who self-identified as a terrible brat with zero interest in education suddenly became, quote, obsessed with who they were and where they came from.
Right. It sparked a genuine curiosity.
Exactly. We aren't just talking about a cartoon keeping a kid quiet for 30 minutes while their parents cook dinner.
No, it's way deeper than that.
We are talking about a vocal performance, like the specific, deliberate way Tom Kane chose to deliver lines about chemical formulas, science, and fatherhood, literally altering the course of a child.
It really forces us to reevaluate the cultural utility of the voice actor, doesn't it?
Completely.
They aren't merely entertainers reading a script. They are subtle, pervasive educators.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
They are modeling emotional regulation. They are modeling what healthy curiosity looks like.
Right, like showing a kid how to be interested in the world.
Exact. When Tom Kane breathed that fresh life into Professor Utonium, he was essentially engineering a safe intellectual space for viewers.
Viewers who might not have had that kind of stabilizing presence anywhere else in their physical lives.
Exactly. And that's why the nostalgia oozes, as the narrator says.
It's not just missing a good show.
No, it isn't just a fond memory of a funny joke. The nostalgia is inextricably linked to the subconscious feeling of being guided, protected, and inspired during the most vulnerable years of your life.
Man, that is powerful. But that level of psychological influence doesn't just materialize out of thin air.
No, it takes work.
It has to be meticulously engineered. To understand how that legacy of comfort is built, we have to move past the broad cultural impact and zoom in on the exact microscopic moment the magic was sparked.
The origin story.
Right. We have to look at the genesis of the characters themselves.
Which leads us directly into the core document driving this whole analysis.
Craig McCracken's Instagram tribute.
Yes, here we have the creator of Foster's Home and the Powerpuff Girls pulling back the curtain.
And sharing this remarkably bittersweet story of how Tom Kane originally entered his universe. Right, the source takes us back 29 years.
29 years. That's a lifetime in the industry.
It really is. So we're inside a Hanna-Barbera recording, and you can just imagine the pressure of that environment, right?
Oh, high stake.
Yeah, creators desperately trying to find exact right frequency to bring their paper to life.
You must be so stressed.
Totally. And McCracken describes the moment vividly. He says this super cool guy walks into the room,
Hey.
But what immediately stops McCracken in his tracks is that this towering actor bore an uncanny resemblance to the physical drawing of the scientist on the audition page.
That is so wild.
Right. The guy walks in, looking just like the character, and then opens his mouth to reveal a booming, warm, friendly voice.
You know, the emphasis on his physical description in the text is incredibly striking, especially when we consider the medium we're talking about.
Yeah, because it's voice acting.
Exact. McCracken has been staring at a 2D sketch on an audition page, probably for weeks or even months, just trying to imagine its voice.
Just obsessing over this piece.
Right. And suddenly, a towering human being crosses the threshold who perfectly embodies the visual geometry of that sketch.
It's almost spooky.
It is. It's a moment where the boundary between the animated world and physical reality just completely collapses.
See, here's where it gets really interesting for me, because I struggle with this idea.
Oh, really? Why?
Well, I want to push back on why McCracken even includes this detail. You'd think voice acting is the one medium entirely disconnected from physics.
True. The audience never sees you.
Right. The microphone doesn't have eyes. The audience will never see the guy in the booth. You can be anyone, look like anything, as long as your vocal folds vibrate at the correct frequency.
Technically, yes.
So why does looking like the character actually matter so much to the creator? Does an uncanny physical resemblance actually alter the vocal performance? Or is it just, playing tricks on the creator's psychology?
That is a brilliant tension to explore.
Right.
Because in a strictly technical sense, you are entirely correct. The microphone is blind.
Completely blind.
But you have to consider the psychology of the director in that.
Okay, walk me through that.
McCracken is attempting to birth a new reality. When the physical avatar of his imagination literally walks through the door, it provides instantaneous validation of his artistic vision.
Oh, like a sign from the universe that he's on the right track.
Exactly. It grounds the fantasy. However, and this is crucial, the text makes it abundantly clear that looking the part was merely the initial hook.
Right, because, if he looked like the drawing but sounded like a chain-smoking gremlin, he wouldn't have gotten the job.
Exactly. He still had to deliver. What sealed the deal was the execution of the craft.
The actual acting.
Right. The text notes, Kane possessed a booming, warm, friendly voice and was one of the smoothest narrators McCracken had ever heard.
Smoothest narrator.
Yes. The physical presence simply mirrored the undeniable acoustic reality.
So the talent backed up the look.
Precisely. But we need to unpack the biomechanics of what it actually takes to be a smooth narrator with a booming yet warm voice.
It's not easy, right?
No, it's incredibly difficult. That is not a natural resting state for most humans.
Most of us just mumble through the day.
Exactly. It requires immense breath control, incredibly precise diction, and the ability to project authority without ever tipping over into aggression.
Okay, but here's the thing. He wasn't just a stoic, technically perfect narrator.
No, he wasn't.
That is the detail in this audition anecdote that absolutely fascinates me.
The impression.
Yes. McCracken notes that amid all this smooth, booming warmth, Kane proves he is incredibly funny.
He really threw a curveball.
He did. McCracken asks him if he knows the Blue Meanie.
Which is such a specific reference.
Right. And for context for you listening, the Blue Meanies are these bizarre, chaotic, highly psychedelic villains from the Beatles' Yellow Submarine universe.
Very weird, very unhinged characters.
Super weird. And Kane doesn't just say yes. He immediately launches into an impression that literally, and this is a quote, freaked everyone out in the room.
The inclusion of that specific detail really highlights the profound paradox required to be a truly legendary voice actor.
Paradox? How so?
Well, think about the required skill set we are analyzing here. On one side of the spectrum, you need the technical perfection and disciplined restraint of a smooth narrator.
Right. You need to be reliable.
You need to be the bedrock of the show. But on the other side of the spectrum, to survive and thrive in the fast-paced, surreal world of animated comedy, you need wild, uninhibited, chaotic energy.
Ah, I see. It's the ability to access a frequency of absolute madness on command.
Precise. In animation, a character's emotional baseline is often turned up to an 8 or 9 out of 10, just normally.
It's very...
Right. So to spike the emotion to a 10 or a 12 requires an actor who can tap into a manic, uninhibited register without losing the core tonal identity of the character.
And doing that without blowing out your vocal cords.
Exactly. The fact that he freaked everyone out means he didn't just mimic a voice, he completely altered the energy of the room.
He made them uncomfortable in the best way possible.
Right. He made professional cartoon creators uncomfortable with the sheer intensity of his performance.
That is so cool.
Kane possessed both the structural, comforting warmth of a quintessential father figure and the manic, unhinged creativity of a 1960s psychedelic villain seamlessly housed within one set of vocal cords.
It's just an astonishing display of range.
It really is.
I mean, he walks in looking like the stoic scientist. He speaks like the reassuring narrator you'd hear on a 1950s educational film.
Right, very proper.
Very proper. And then he instantly shatters that illusion with pure, unpredictable vocal chaos.
It's a masterclass in auditioning.
Seriously. It's no wonder McCracken says he knew right then and there he was excited to collaborate with him.
Oh, absolutely.
And what's incredible is that this single explosive spark in the Hanna-Barbera booth didn't just sustain a pilot episode or, a single season.
No, it went on for much longer.
It ignited a creative partnership that endured for over a decade.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, an audition, no matter how spectacular, is really merely a spark.
Right, it just gets you in the door.
Exactly. It proves capability. But sustaining that creative energy, keeping it burning bright enough to power multiple distinct television shows over an extended era that requires an entirely different, arguably much deeper level of artistic endurance.
Oh, 100%.
The text explicitly connects that initial Hanna-Barbera meeting to a symbiosis that continued for 12 seasons of cartoons.
12 seasons. I mean, I really want you to think about the sheer magnitude of that timeline.
It's staggering.
It really is. In the animation industry, where shows are greenlit, retooled, and unceremoniously canceled in the blink of an eye, a 12-season collaboration between one creator and one specific voice actor is a monumental statistical anomaly.
It's practically unheard of.
Truly. And the source text makes sure to highlight the sheer whiplash-inducing range of characters Kane brought to life during that marathon.
It explicitly contrasts two specific roles.
Right. On one hand, you have his intimidating performance as a staunch gentleman rabbit.
Mr. Harriman from Foster's Home.
Exactly, the rigid rule follower. And on the other hand, the ultimate warm father figure of Professor Utonium.
If we extrapolate what a 12-season collaboration actually demands of the human body and mind, we really start to uncover the hidden, exhausting architecture of their partnership.
Exhausting is definitely the right word.
Right. To keep a character fresh, engaging, and emotionally resonant for a decade, an actor must possess deep, inexhaustible emotional reservoirs.
It's not just doing a silly voice.
Exact. It is one thing to contort your vocal cords into a funny voice for a 4-hour recording session.
Right. Anyone can do a bit at a party.
Right. But it is an entirely different discipline to live alongside a creator's evolving vision, subtly adapting the nuance of the voice as the character undergoes years of narrative development.
All without losing the core identity the audience originally fell in love with.
Exactly.
It's exactly like watching a master character actor in a grueling repertory.
That's a perfect analogy.
I am just marveling at the biological and psychological gymnastics of this.
It's impressive.
The exact same human vocal folds that delivered a staunch, rule-abiding, aggressively intimidating British rabbit were able to seamlessly pivot to the most nurturing, unconditionally generous scientific father figure on television.
Let's analyze the contrast the text provides, because it's vital to understanding his genius.
Okay, let's break it down.
To play a staunch gentleman rabbit like Mr. Harriman requires immense vocal rigidity.
Like physically tightening up.
Yes, exactly. It requires crisp consonants, a tightened jaw, and an almost militant vocal posture to convey constant disapproval and strict adherence to rules.
You can almost hear the tension in the jaw when he speaks as that character.
Precisely. But to play Professor Utonium requires the exact opposite.
Total relaxation.
Right. It requires vocal flexibility, a loosening of the throat and airy resonance, and a delivery bathed in unconditional love and gentle warmth.
Man, it just takes an incredible amount of empathy to inhabit two fundamentally opposed worldviews like that.
It really does. Empathy is the key word there.
You can't just change the pitch of your voice. You have to fundamentally change the psychology behind the...
You have to believe what you're saying.
Exactly. And doing that for 12 seasons, how does a creator even begin to trust an actor with that kind of immense response?
Well, it speaks volumes about the profound trust established between the two men over those 29 years.
It's a real partnership.
It is. To earn a showrunner's trust for over a decade goes far beyond just hitting your marks in the recording or having the stamina to read lines clearly without stumbling.
Right. It's more than just being a professional employee.
Exactly. It implies a deeply shared creative and emotional vision. McCracken didn't just trust Kane to read the dialogue off the script. He trusted Kane to fundamentally understand the emotional core of his universes.
Because when you are casting the central authority figures in your animated worlds, whether it's the incredibly strict rabbit running the chaotic Foster's Home or the loving scientist raising 3 superpowered girls, you're essentially handing over the entire emotional anchor of your life's work to another human being.
That is a terrifying amount of trust.
It really is, because if the anchor fails, the show just drifts away and dies.
Exactly. The actor is the ultimate custodian of the creator's intent.
Ooh, custodian of intent. I love that.
Right. And this psychological custodial duty becomes infinitely more complex when we examine the underlying motivations of the creator himself.
Yeah. And this brings us to what I consider the most profound and honestly the most painfully vulnerable revelation in this entire source.
It's a huge turning point in the eulogy.
It really is. We've spent all this time talking about the impressive vocal range, the uncanny audition, the nostalgia that saves wayward kids.
All very important stuff.
Yes, but McCracken's tribute finally reveals exactly why that specific emotional anchor was so crucial to him personally.
Right, the personal motivation.
Exactly. This is where we see how deeply personal, unresolved childhood pain directly forged a pop culture icon.
It truly is the thematic nucleus of the entire eulogy.
It really hit me hard.
McCracken strips away all the Hollywood veneer, all the industry talk, and reveals the deeply personal void that necessitated Tom Kane's specific energy for Professor Utonium.
Yeah, he gets incredibly real about his past.
He does. The text explicitly states that McCracken grew up without a dad.
Right.
Therefore, it was of paramount importance to him that when he created the universe of the Powerpuff Girls, he gave them the, quote, best one I could give them.
The best one I could give them.
Yeah.
Man, that line just stops you in your tracks.
It's heartbreaking, but also...
It really is. He breaks down the psychological geometry of the show for us.
Right, the dynamic between the characters.
He explains that the three little girls represented body, mind, and spirit.
Okay.
But the professor was the heart of the family.
The emotional center.
Exact. And McCracken explicitly says that Tom was exactly that. So what does this all mean?
That's the big question.
Like, when a creator uses their art to literally fill a gaping emotional void from their own life, when McCracken sits down at a drawing board and literally invents the idealized father he never had in reality, how much psychological pressure does that place on the actor who is hired to embody that?
This raises an important question about the nature of acting itself.
Okay, go on.
It is a staggering amount of pressure. We're looking at the ultimate example of art attempting to heal life, and life subsequently validating the art.
That's a deep way to look at it.
Think about the magnitude of the task handed to Tom Kane in that booth. You aren't just being asked to voice a cartoon scientist who accidentally spilled chemical X.
Right. It's not just Saturday morning fluff.
No. You are being asked to voice the idealized manifestation of a fatherless creator's deepest, most primal yearning.
Wow.
You are tasked with being the flawless, loving, ever-patient dad that the man directing you never had.
That is an immense burden to put on an actor.
It is an almost impossible standard of empathy to maintain.
Serious. Because if an actor was just faking it, using vocal techniques to sound warm and fatherly, the facade would eventually crack over 12 seasons.
Undoubtedly.
Right. It would eventually just sound hollow.
Precisely. The human ear is incredibly adept at detecting inauthenticity, especially over hundreds of episodes.
We can hear when someone is phoning it in.
We really can. But what the text reveals is the beautiful, almost cosmic symmetry of this specific casting choice.
Okay, the symmetry. Tell me about that.
McCracken didn't just find a highly skilled voice actor who could mimic fatherly warmth. He found a man who actually lived that idealized existence.
Yes, the text makes sure to emphasize this heavily.
That's a crucial detail.
Kane played that role of the heart, not just when the red recording light was on in the booth, but in his actual everyday reality.
In his real life.
Yeah. McCracken describes Kane's real home life, noting that it was filled with a big family of kids and a sprawling menagerie of animals.
A very chaotic, loving home.
Exactly. McCracken states plainly and without exaggeration that Tom Kane was one of the most generous and loving ever.
And that right there is the secret ingredient to the alchemy we established at the beginning of our deep dive.
The acoustic alchemy.
Exact. That is the exact reason why the performance oozes with nostalgia and feels so incredibly safe to the children watching it.
Because it is safe.
Right. Kane didn't have to act the role of a loving father. His real-life warmth, his actual exhausting, joyful, lived experience of raising a big family and caring for a menagerie of animals.
All that real-world chaos.
Yes. It bypassed the artifice of acting and bled straight through the microphone.
He wasn't acting, he was translating.
Translating, yes.
He was taking his own daily reality and literally converting it into audio waves.
Exact. You cannot fake that level of authentic, cellular generosity for 12 seasons.
He'd burn out.
Completely. McCracken, operating out of a place of childhood loss, drew up the architectural blueprint for a perfect father to heal his own wound.
The sketch on the page.
Yeah, and in the Hanna-Barbera booth 29 years ago, he found a man who already possessed that exact architecture built into his soul.
It's almost poetic.
Kane was the living embodiment of the heart McCracken was searching.
Man, it just completely shatters and reframes how you will ever watch those shows again.
It changes everything.
It really does. You realize you aren't just hearing a highly paid actor do a funny voice to entertain a demographic.
No, it's so much more
You are hearing a real, exhausted, loving father radiate his actual affection into a sterile microphone, capturing it in amber forever, so that millions of kids, like the narrator who was saved from a path of apathy, could feel it whenever they needed it.
It serves as the ultimate, undeniable validation of Velskapom's core thesis in the video essay.
Which is?
That the invisible workers of the animation industry, these voice actors, pour an unbelievable amount of their actual human energy, their personal love, and their spirit into a medium that often reduces them to uncredited voices in the background.
That's so true. They really don't get the credit they deserve.
They don't. McCracken's gratitude in the text is palpable, not just as a creator whose show was successful, but as a man whose personal void was filled.
He found the father he drew.
Right. He states he is eternally grateful to have had Kane's voice and heart speak for my characters.
And through them, his spirit endures.
Yeah.
What an incredibly powerful, transcendent way to summarize a 29-year friendship and a massive arc legacy.
Beautiful tribute.
It really is. We have traversed a massive emotional landing.
We really covered a lot of ground.
We did. We started by looking at a restless kid relaxing in front of the television during the early era of Cartoon Network, whose entire trajectory was altered and saved by the warm, educational voice of cartoon science.
And then we traced the origin of that warmth back 29 years to a fateful, high-pressure audition in a Hanna-Barbera recording.
Crazy audition.
Right, where a towering actor with an uncanny physical resemblance proved he could master both the smoothest narration and the most chaotic, room-freaking comedy.
And finally, we uncovered the profound emotional engine driving higher 12-season collaboration.
The real secret behind it all.
A fatherless creator who desperately needed an anchor, finding the ultimate dad, a man whose real life was overflowing with children, animals, and generosity, breathed permanent life.
And in unpacking all of this, we've seen the absolutely truth of the source material's conclusion.
Which we can't ignore.
Right. Voice actors are performing an act of immense emotional labor.
It's heavy lifting.
They aren't just making pleasing sounds to match mouth flaps on a screen. They are immortalizing human empathy in animation.
Capturing it in ember.
Exactly. They are taking their own private kindness and broadcasting it to children across the globe who might desperately need to hear it.
It's a beautiful realization, and it's exactly why we do these deep dives.
To find these stories.
Exactly, to scrape away the surface of pop culture and uncover the profound, beating human stories hidden just behind the screen. As we wrap up this exploration today, I want to leave you with something to really think about.
Final thought.
Yes. The next time you find yourself relaxing and you hear a cartoon character from your past that inexplicably washes you in a sense of absurd and nostalgia, pause and ask.
Think about the person behind the mic.
Are you reacting to clever writing, or are you acting like